Today's webinar is going to be interesting because you're about to witness some amazing tactics. Tactics that you've never heard of. Tactics only the master facilitators know on how to facilitate and plan a productive meeting. So when it comes to meetings or workshops, there are two aspects to it. One is planning, second is facilitating. So planning happens before the meeting and facilitation happens during the meeting. So in this webinar, we have invited the founder of Flows, Mr. Vaiko Hansen, who is also a master facilitator when it comes to planning meetings and workshops. So Flows is a product that we launched on PitchGround. You can check it out with the link in the description. And Mr. Vaiko is going to share his secrets on how to plan a successful workshop or a meeting in this video. And now, make sure to keep a notebook and a pen handy because you're about to get some amazing tips and tricks that you can use to plan your next meeting. And I guarantee you that if you watch the webinar till the end, you are going to have an amazing productive meeting. That is, your next meeting is going to be a notch higher, a notch better than all your previous meetings. So this webinar, it's all about planning a productive meeting. In the next video, which will be added to the playlist, we will show you how you can facilitate a productive workshop or a meeting. So are you excited? Cut out all the distractions and watch the webinar.
So, thank you for introducing me. A couple of more words. As you said, I am a facilitator. So I have designed and run and facilitated definitely more than 100, maybe even 200 different workshops and meetings. And I've been on as much, maybe even more on those as a participant, and I've had a lot of different experiences. Some of them are really cool, some of them are really engaging, and some of them are just dead boring. I'm going to share you a story because since there were some new participants today, then I'm going to tell you a little story that I shared previously as well, why this thing is so this meeting stuff is so engaging and passionate for me. When I was working maybe 8 years ago at Skype, I was sitting on one development meeting, and at some point I felt really a little bit weird, and our manager was looking at me with a weird look on his face, and suddenly I realized that I had fallen asleep with my eyes open for a split second. It was that boring to sit there. Nothing bad about the people who did it, but the experience for me was like something that I'm sure many of you have experienced, and that is where we come to the meetings. People tend to feel that this is not work. This is something that we just have to do. Sometimes it's productive, sometimes it's useless. But today I'm going to tell you some tricks, and I'm going to share a framework how you can plan a better meeting. But more of that later. First, I'm going to show you one really cool Dilbert cartoon that to me sums up what is the problem with the meetings. People just come together and waste time. There have been surveys done by Doodle, for example, how much time and money companies actually waste on pointless, useless meetings, and people generally hate them. People make cartoons about them. So let's think about for a second what is a meeting and what it could be. So in most organizations that I have been part of as an employee long time back, meeting was a place where people came together to sync stuff, to plan stuff, to talk about various stuff, and they couldn't wait going back to the actual work. And people, like to this day, tell me sometimes that I'm sick and tired of meetings because I would like to get some real work done. But on the other hand, when we think about it, when people come together to do some kind of work, like let's say a physical work, then when you're doing something alone versus you're doing something together with somebody, then shouldn't the result be more when you do it together? So what I've experienced is that when you plan and facilitate a meeting in a certain way, then meetings become co-working sessions where you could actually do like real actual stuff, get actual results, and you could call it more than real work. And people wouldn't say that I want to leave this meeting, I want to go back to my work to get some real work done. So I really like the saying that on meetings, people come to meet, in workshops, people come to work. And this is what we are talking about today. We are talking about turning your meetings into actual co-working workshops. Before we go to the framework, let's go really quickly through what could make a good meeting or a workshop. And I've rounded up some things that we are aiming to get here. First one being clear goal and focus. Oftentimes, meetings are very vague in what we actually are trying to accomplish here. And therefore, the focus tends to shift. People are talking about different kinds of things. And in the end of the meeting, you haven't gotten anywhere. But how couldn't have you been there if you didn't know where you wanted to end up? So clear goal and keeping this goal as a focus is one major characteristic of a good meeting. The second one being engagement. Even if you have a clear goal and focus, people can be disengaged. They are doing their own stuff, preparing for another meeting. I was talking to one guy who was like from a big corporation, which had a very crazy meeting culture. There were meetings all day, meetings. And I asked as a joke that how many meetings have you been on simultaneously using your computer? And he said, basically, I've been on 2 meetings. So one meeting physically, another one through like a Zoom call or something. And then at the same time, I was preparing for the 3rd meeting. So think about how much engagement that person was contributing to the actual meeting that he was on. So what we are trying to achieve is that people are actually there, present, working, knowing where they want to go, knowing how they can contribute, and actually contributing and being connected with what is going on. And that leads to the 3rd one, inspiration. When people are just dull, how many ideas or good progress or information can you get out of them versus when they are really inspired, their eyes are sparkling, they are generating ideas and really captivated by what is going on, then the result is absolutely different. And what is the result? You are not wasting time anymore. You are not wasting time of company resources. You are not wasting time of these people, and you're not wasting time of you when you are going through this meeting or facilitating it. The other benefit is, of course, goals are reached. When you set a goal, when you have something that you want to accomplish through this session, this meeting, this workshop, then when you plan it really well, then you actually get these things done rather than just end up somewhere halfway or even I don't know where. And the 3rd one is actually how people feel. Most people, when they come to meeting, they feel really like, I want to escape this meeting because it's just so dull and boring. Versus imagine if they would come there like, oh, we are so excited, we can work together again. This is so inspiring for me. I cannot wait to make the next step towards doing whatever we do with this project and this meeting, this co-working session. I know this is the place to do it. I cannot wait when we can work together again. If you can have these kind of people on the meeting, imagine what is going on with your project's work, your team's work, your company. So what do we have to do to get this kind of good meeting? And to me, the secret ingredient, the super special ingredient is the facilitator. To me, he is like a conductor of the orchestra. If you think about it, when you have a group of professional instrument players who have learned this instrument, studied this instrument for decades, and played like hundreds or maybe thousands of hours, yet when they come together as an orchestra and they don't have the facilitator, the conductor in front of them, then what comes out of this is not pleasant to listen to. So the conductor comes, he knows how and what needs to happen on the stage, and orchestrates everything in a way that the orchestra actually reaches the end. And that is the same thing that the facilitator does on the meeting. And very often, most of the times that I have been on other meetings, I see that there is no such role as a facilitator. There is somebody who needs something to be done, and that somebody usually calls up the meeting, but they engage themselves in the topics the same way as other participants. So there is nobody. So basically, the guy who calls up the meeting picks up the violin and starts playing as well. But nobody in this room is actually looking, where are we? Are we moving in the right direction? What should happen? And making this all work. And if you don't have that person in the room, then chances are that you can actually reach your goals, even if you have those, then are very, very slim. So there are basically two main things that a facilitator does. In my experience, one happens, and they are both equally important. One happens before the workshop, and that is preparation. The other one is the facilitation. And today's topic is preparation. So today we are talking only about preparation. And I'm just going to share the framework that I use when I prepare a session. That doesn't mean that there are this ideal for everybody, but here are just some couple of ideas that you can use and mix with your own methods. So before we go to the framework, I also would like to add that I usually take, when I'm running a workshop, I usually take at least the same amount of time to prepare than is the workshop itself. So if the workshop is 4 hours, I prepare 4 hours. And the more there are people, the more I put hours into it, because the responsibility is so much higher. When there are like 10 people coming together, then I'm basically risking the time and effort and energy of 10 people. And if I fail, then it is very disrespectful for these people and such a loss for the company as well. So first thing, if you want to take one thing out of this webinar, then get a separate facilitator, either be yourself or hire it from your company or outside, or do whatever it takes, but get somebody who is keeping an eye on where we are and what are we doing. And somebody who would prepare actually what needs to happen and how. But let's go to the framework. This is the framework how I plan my co-working sessions, and it looks like this. I know it looks complicated. We are going through it one step at a time, so I will not show it to you any longer. Let's build this thing on the slide. So the first step is always for me the why, the great question. And usually people think that they know why we are doing it. But my experience is that when we start thinking about a little bit, what is actually the why? Why are we doing this? Why do we need to get together and have this co-working session? Then oftentimes you might end up in a different place where you actually thought of. And that would trigger different needs and different participants for the meeting. And I sometimes use the 5 whys exercise, which is, if you haven't heard of it, it's basically asking why 5 times in a row. So when you know that we need to prepare, let's say, an ad for hiring ad, for example, with the new marketing person, then I ask this question, why 5 times in a row? So why do we need this ad? Because we need this ad to be live next Wednesday. Why do we need it for next Wednesday? Because we want people, the new marketing person, to be here in the next month, and we are in a very much hurry. Why? And that you go deeper and deeper. And when you have all these whys, then you suddenly see that there are very different levels of why do we need this meeting. And it sets the tone, and it sets later instruments that you can use. Another example, I was facilitating one workshop on a conference in Munich. It was a data science conference. And when we were planning it with the guys, it was, they first presented me that they needed to get ideas from the participants on a particular topic. And we started planning on how to do this. But the more we went into planning, I started to realize that they actually wanted to demo the way they do it, and then just engage people so that they would be engaged. So the actual why was just to demo their way of working, not to get some ideas out of them. And that changed the whole picture. So if you know exactly why you are doing it, you can then tailor the rest of the stuff. So next question, big question, is who? Who do I need on this meeting? Again, very often I see that, Dave should be there too as well. And maybe that guy from the marketing. Oh, let's call these guys as well. And there are a lot of people who are either not contributing to the goal. They don't care about this. They're just invited there. So they are automatically disengaged, or they have a very different perspective of stuff. And then you just, which might be good, but at some other times it might be bad. And you would just slow things down if you invite people who are not supposed to be there. So as a second step, I always think through who really need to be there for the why, who really need to contribute and who can help us. So when I choose the right people, there is a good way of thinking it is that there are usually people think there's just participants, but I see it this way, that there are actually different kinds of roles where participants could be. Of course, you have people who contribute. These are the people who are genuinely interested in the outcome, and they are ready to work on this particular topic. They are ready to invest time and energy, and they are sort of like a team in that meeting. They are actually working towards the end goal. But not all are contributors. There can always be also advisors or experts. These are people who are invited because they know something. Either they have some experience or background knowledge, or you just need an external advice. And this is a good place to think that, do we really need them on the meeting? Do we really need them on the meeting the whole time? There are different ways you can do it. You can interview them before. You can, a really good method from design thinking framework or design sprint framework is ask the experts method, where you can actually book, maybe let's say you have a 2-hour meeting. You can book 20 minutes of one expert's time, and they will come on a dedicated time, and you present where you are, you ask some questions, you get some insight, and then you let them go and work from there. So you don't need all the people to be there all the time. And then there are third type of people who are just interested on the topic, or they are so related somehow. They need to be in sync. They need to know what's going on. So let's bring them. They should also know where we're heading with this. So again, there might be some other ways how to engage these people, either do a presentation later, or sum it up for them, or just do like a video broadcast to them, or whatever you need to do to get this information through. But do you really need to keep them like 2 hours on this session? Probably not. Or maybe you do. But that was the second step. Third step is the journey. So when we are working on something, then there is always like point A and point B, where we are today and where we want to end up at the end of this meeting. So as a next step, I always list what are the actual outcomes that what we want to reach by the end of this meeting. What do we want to walk away with? Like we have this document in the wiki, we have decided on this person, we have done this, we have done that. What is the actual thing that you really want to get done by the end of this session? When you list all these things, you can already see that maybe some things are too much, maybe some things are not related. And during the meeting, you can keep track whether we have done this, whether we have done that. Second part is the starting point, where we are today. So let's say we have one of the outcome is that everybody who came understand things the same way. Like let's say we are deciding on structure for a company, as like a governance structure, for example. So when this is the outcome, then I always take time to think who are the people are coming and what is the starting point, where they are today, how much information do they have right now, what steps do we have to go through to get these people from A to B. If I think like consciously through where this group is today and these people are individually today, then I know what actions I need to design between these point A and point B to actually get to the B. When I have this as well, then comes the actual actions. What do we need to do? I call them content blocks. So content blocks can be basically very different things. What you can do to get these people from A to B. Usually, I've seen that people don't really think about too many different things you can do during a meeting. There's, of course, explaining the goal or going through the goal. Where do we want to end up? Then there is a lot of discussions. Maybe there is what's the next step. But there are actually so much more that you oftentimes need to do. And here are some examples. Maybe you want to warm people up. They are maybe running from another meeting. Their head is in the clouds or in other topics. They haven't seen each other maybe for 2 weeks. How to get the people like into a same vibe, like let's say hello before we really jump into the stuff. Can be really short and can be really playful. It usually sets the mood for the group and gets them going. Next one, condition the team. So maybe we are dealing with very delicate thing where there are fears or doubts concerned. Then maybe you need to get the team into some sort of condition. Maybe you need to remind them how awesome we are as a company, or remind them that there are other alternatives and it is okay to fail, or whatever you need to do, but to get them into a state where they are actually believe that what we have set for today's meeting or workshop, it is achievable and it is okay to contribute. Then, of course, we explain the goal. then there could be a block where somebody needs to share some information. And this is like very specific type of thing that we need to do. We might need to let one person share information or everybody. So this is like very typical thing that you might have. Then you could have a frame the challenge block where you actually, when we are solving some kind of problem during the meeting, then maybe we need to get on the same page in terms of what is the challenge that we are trying to solve. People might have different understandings of the problem, and if we jump straight into solving it, then we might solve different problems. Of course, there can be block where you create some ideas when you know the problem. Then you might need to prioritize different ideas that you got from the other block, so that people would clearly express their understanding of what ideas are better, what ideas are worse, what are more suitable, what are less suitable. Finally, you most definitely need to reach some kind of decision. Maybe sometimes not, you need a follow-up meeting, but it could be a block that you need to do. Of course, one of the most important things, have a break if you have a longer session. And finally, what we already mentioned, what are the next steps? So if you look at it like this, there are actually 10 different things that you might want to combine depending on where you are today, A, and where you want to go, B. And in flows, we have a lot of different, first we have like a place where you are reminded that these are the potential blocks that you could use. And we also have some methods for each of these that you could actually do. So then we have the blocks. And finally, if it is a short meeting, it might be enough for on that level. But sometimes I go even deeper and plan the actual activities in a very time-boxed way. That means that I know exactly what people should be doing in a particular time and how much time do they have for that. And I'll give you an example, which I shared in the previous webinar as well, which I call the co-working diamond. And this is basically where you have a lot of people in the room, a lot of different ideas, and you want to reach the same place with them. So what I usually do is I let them first think solo, so they think quietly. Some people need to think before they start talking. Some people think while they talk, different types. So let people just go quiet and share their thoughts to themselves. Then when there are a lot of people, I let them work in pairs or groups, so they could share amongst each other and work on each other's ideas. Finally, I let these groups or pairs share to the whole room so that everybody would hear what kind of ideas are circling around this group and this room. Finally, if we have that, we can group the similar ideas together and finally let them decide or prioritize which of these ideas that emerged are better. And these are very specific things that you need to do. And all these things can be time boxed. How much time will you leave them for thinking alone? How much time do you leave them for sharing in pairs or groups? And so forth. So if you plan it like this, then you know exactly how much time each block will take. Do you have enough time for the workshop? Where can you actually end up by the end of this session? Some more, and the blocks, the methods that we have in flows, these are in this detail. So when you use a method, then everything is time boxed and you know exactly how you should do it. And you can, of course, customize it, make some things longer, delete some things, add your own things. But a couple of thoughts in the end, how else you can actually get to the end where you are trying to go. So first tip would be have these slots very short. I've very often seen facilitators do a mistake that they give some task, like people do this, and they leave them for 20 minutes, and there's very great risk, or maybe even like longer, 40 minutes I've seen even. So there's a great risk that people drift away. They go into some other places with their discussions, and you have no control and no understanding at all. Are you on the same page with the whole room? But if you have really short time slots and you check in with them, now you do this, now you do that, now you do this, now you do that, then you can always very consciously guide where the whole room together is going. Then I usually have dynamic blocks. So what this means is that, of course, I set the time for sharing or discussing ideas. Let's say it's, or let's say brainstorming ideas. It's a very common thing to do on a meeting or workshop. And let's say I set 15 minutes for brainstorming, but if I plan the meeting, if I plan the time dynamic, it's 15 to 20 minutes. Then I can decide on the end of the block that this discussion is really producing some really genius ideas. I shouldn't stop it here. So I have this extra 5 minutes that I can use. I plan it into the workshop. And but if ideas are done, then we can move to the next block. So every block that can be custom, then time-wise, I try to do it like that. And also from the activities, you can put some optional activities into these blocks. So when there's enough time, then you could let people do some extra things. But when the time has run out, then you will not use them. And this leads to the third idea, which is optional blocks. So I usually plan for more. There are some blocks that are not crucial to reach the end goal, to reach the B, but they would benefit. And these are like blocks that are like spares. So if we go by the minute, we go how we planned and reach the goal, everything is great. Optional blocks were not used. But if we go these things through a lot faster, for example, people are very sharp or there are little less ideas or whatever reason it is, then I can always throw in another optional block and get more time out of these people or more results out of these people who came together. Another idea is testing. In product development, we know that testing is very important. Why shouldn't it be with our meetings or sessions, especially when there are a lot of people's time involved? When we were designing this session, what I was talking about before, the session in Munich, then we did 3 rounds. First, we did with people inside the company, the same thing. Then we ran the same thing with people who we invited from different companies. Before we adjusted a little bit the frame, and then did the same thing with people who didn't know us. And when we went to Munich, we had already run it twice and improved it twice. And then it was a lot better than the first time. Yes, so we have a question here. Is 5 to 10 minutes a thumb rule? Well, in some blocks, I've also used longer blocks, but I like this shorter version because of what I explained before. When there are a lot of groups and I don't know where things are going, like people are discussing in separate groups, and I don't know whether they actually got the task right, or maybe they are already done and they are just talking about whatever, then I, as a facilitator, need to know where they are. And if I leave them for too long, then there is a great risk that I lose them. But it is not always the case. So when there are longer times needed, then you can always do like checkpoints. Like you let them do like 5 or 10 minutes, and then you let them share one idea, for example, from these 10 minutes, and let them, each group shares an idea. You have instantly understanding, are they still working on the same thing that you set them to work on? And then you can let them go on and for another 10 minutes, another 10 minutes. Yeah, all right. So this was the framework. And what I always do is that there are 5 steps, but I go through these steps several circles. So when I have thought all these questions through, then I go back to the step 1 and see whether the why still makes sense. I have put a lot of thought into it, and maybe now I understand it better, and I can rephrase it into a more suitable one. And the same goes with who needs to be there and what's the actual journey. So all these points can change while I'm working on it. So I do sometimes when it's really important session, I go through these 5 steps, maybe even like 5 times, and each time improving something on these levels. And then there are two last ideas. What I like to do, and what we really like with the attitude in flows, is that there are some subconscious or even like energetical things at play when we are working with people. So if we really take the time to visualize before the session starts, how the session should end and what should be the vibe and how well it goes and where do we end up, then I've seen really good examples of how that exactly is what's going to happen when I take the time to do that. And the second idea is training the muscle of unknown. What I mean by that is this framework might have looked like I plan everything by the detail, but there is always a certain point where I end this and let myself be a little bit unprepared. And why do I do that? It's to train the muscle of unknown. It's to train my ability to figure things out on the go. If I don't know exactly what is going to happen at some points, then and I train my ability to just figure out what needs to happen on the go without planning, then I became much more dynamic for the whole process. So the plan is the plan, but what really needs to happen on that moment with these people. So if we have that muscle very strong, then this certainly helps a lot. And that is it for today's session about the planning. These are some tips. It's a wide topic, but I hope it helped you a little bit.
100%. And we got to learn a lot of new things. That is like there's a planning session, and again, there's a facilitation session that's different. And starting with why, I think that's more powerful because I'm reading the book by Simon Sinek right now as we speak.
Really?
Like I've been reading it, and it actually is powerful by the concepts, the way he explains. So starting with why is really powerful. And guys, I hope you have understood it. And if not, if you joined it in the middle, there's always a replay. Right now, the replay isn't on YouTube because we're making a post on the PitchGround Facebook group. We're going to edit this part of the video and we're going to post it on YouTube. It's going to be really productive. So if you are interested in the replay of this on YouTube to share with your friends, to share with your team, our co-workers, then make sure to respond to that post on Facebook group. So Venkatesh says definitely he loves it. Thanks, Vaiko and Minanka.
Very good.
Awesome, Venkatesh.
Awesome
I'm
stuff.
glad you found value in this. So now is the time to explore how flows can help us uh, make our meetings more productive and more efficient. So let's get into flows.
Yes. So first, I'm going to log in.
For those who are watching this right now, Flows is available on an LTD, and what you're seeing right now, this is exactly the dashboard that you're going to get when you actually start logging in from the start. So, yeah.
Yes. So the whole flow starts with the list of your sessions. Right now, I don't have any upcoming sessions. I can see my past sessions, but let's not go into past and let's create a new one. So let's say we have a meeting coming up where we need to ideate some new solutions for the features of our product. So let's name this ideation session. This is just for me. And now I set the time. Let's say it will be tomorrow. And let's say we are not working at night. So let's put a little bit more reasonable time from 3 to 5, 2 hours. Let's do it. So now we are taken into the planner of flows. And planning here consists of 4 steps. You have the foundation, then you have the agenda, then you have detailed activities, and finally you have facilitation. We have covered from this framework 3 of the steps, and we are working on other steps as well. This is improving constantly, but now I'm demoing you where we are today. So first, this is the part where I set what is the why, what is the purpose of this objective, as we talked before. And let's say that the situation is that we have gotten a lot of feedback from our customer service that people are not happy with particular way some feature is helping them or not helping. And we need to get some solutions to that. So, but since customer service people have just told us what's the problem, but we haven't actually talked to these people. And also there are different agents. So we need to first sync our understanding, what is really the problem, and then brainstorm some ideas. So let's say the why is that we need to sync our understandings, problem, and brainstorm solutions to it. Yes. So in the future, very soon, there will be a 5 whys method and some other methods here where you can really improve this your understanding. But right now, this is just, you just state it. And you need to think about it yourself. But when you put it here, then it will be visible throughout the planning, and it will be visible throughout the session itself. So everybody will always know and go back to the why. So then we go to the agenda. There are 2 different agenda templates that we have built in. These are either idea generation or problem solving sessions here, or status update or sync or recap sessions. Like 75% of the sessions people have are either one or the other. So you can use this one, but to really demonstrate the power of flows, I will go to start from scratch and show how the actual planning here works. So now we are in the agenda block view. And here we can very quickly, in a modular way, build the session. So, and the software reminds you the same things that I was talking about here, previously. What are the different things that we might need to do? So let's say we first do a little warm-up session. Then let's say explain the goal. Why are we here? Then let's frame the challenge or the problem. We need to know what problem are we actually solving. And then let's do create some ideas or solutions for it. Finally, we prioritize which ideas are better and reach a decision. Usually it's not so easy, but let's imagine we are really powerful brainstormers or decision makers. And let's say before framing the challenge, we actually need to listen to customer service and their view of things. So let's let people share info as well. Now it is here, so I have to move it up where we actually need it. Soon we will have drag and drop here. Right now it is with arrows, but we are working on much easier and faster way as it is everywhere else. But now we are having a warm-up, then we explain the goal, then we let people share knowledge, and then we frame the challenge, create some ideas, prioritize, and reach a decision. So let's write to them, to participants, what we are actually doing. So welcome everybody would be the first block. Then let's remind ourselves the goal, and customer service explains stuff. Then agree on the problem, and let's brainstorm some solutions. Finally, which are the best ideas? And finally, let's decide. And what I wrote here is the things that participants will see during the session. So this is basically talking to them. Now, what what I can do is I can assign some time for each of these blocks to be really sure that we can actually do all these things with the time that we have. The software has calculated that we have 120 minutes available in the session based on the time that we set. So we must fit into that. So let's welcome everybody for 10 minutes. People are arriving and then doing some stuff, and then we do some exercise, and finally we are there. Let's remind ourselves the goal. Let's do it in 5 minutes. We are very effective. And as you can see, the time fills in the timer, so you'll always see where you are with the planning. Now, customer service explains. Let's give them 20 minutes. It's a complicated issue. Now let's agree on the problem, maybe 30 minutes. Let's brainstorm some solutions. That is much more important. Let's put it like 40 minutes. Which are the better ideas? Prioritize, let's say 10 minutes, and deciding might take some time, 10 minutes. Oops, we have run over. So we need to adjust something. Let's agree on the problem a little bit faster. Let's put it 25. And let's decide might also take a little bit less. So we have some 5-minute buffer time. Now, potentially, I could go to the meeting and I would have a plan. But there is a third step where I can go with this. Let's go to the next planning phase. And here, you can do lots of stuff. I will not go through everything, but basically you have two options. Either you create your own activities under each of the blocks, what you actually will do with these people during this block, or you use a template from our template library. So let's first see what the template library offers us. Here are the same block types, and here are some methods to use for this need that you have for this block. First block is breaking the ice and warming up. We have 6 different things right now, what you can do to do it. And this library is improving, but we are more trying to keep it focused. There are a lot of ideas in the world and in internet, but here we use only the things that work in a meeting session like really well, and we're trying not to overcomplicate your selection process, but you can use different ones. I really like the crazy product pitch, where participants are shared one crazy product, like burning newspaper or paper shirt or something like that, and they need to create a quick sales pitch for this product. It's super funny, and it's sparks some creativity and generates really good mood. So let's use that one. I can choose that I have 4 people, and I can use this template. So what Flows does, it populates my block and creates things that we actually need to do. So we have 4 people. They are divided into 2 pairs. So for each pair, you have task to present the pitch, and then there is spreading out ideas. Then we have some time slots. It takes 5 minutes, so we can make it shorter. It took some time. Yeah, there was putting together. Yeah. Okay, we need to go back to 8 minutes. It used to be 10 minutes, so let's go back to 2 minutes, having a 2-minute buffer time for this block as well. Let's do another one. Let's do maybe brainstorm. We have a brainstorm block template where you can brainstorm as a master. So everybody picks one wise master and invites them like artificially into the session and brainstorm ideas as they would be that person. Super productive to get some out-of-the-box crazy ideas on the table. You can be Buddha, or you can be Richard Branson, or you can be whoever you want. And again, this populates the session, and you have all the tasks, and you have even the instructions for the participants during the session, but I will show it later. So here, the block consists of 71 minutes of brainstorm, but we were planning a little less. So we might need to reduce that to, let's say, 30 minutes and warm up maybe a little less. So now we are in time. Or we can adjust the block times and we can go with 71 minutes. And then another way to populate these is by creating your own activities. So customer service explains, Todd tells us the story, and let's leave him 10 minutes. Then Q&A, everybody can ask Todd what's going on, 5 minutes, and maybe we have another customer service rep as well. Let's Alicia explains her view. Let's let her comment as well. Let's put that above. So first Todd tells us the story and Felicia gives their points in 5 minutes, and then we can go through Q&A. So this is the detail, and this is how I actually figure out in flows what do we really need to do to get the customer service explanation, and how much time will it actually take. And if I have planned everything like this, I don't have to plan everything, this detail, but things that are critical, many people sharing, many people, many ways where things can go haywire, then you can use a very time-boxed way in this way. So now, potentially, you could end here as well, go with this plan. And for that, you can use a facilitation dashboard. it is very uncomfortable to, during the meeting, look at this kind of thing. So we have built a separate dashboard for you to use during the session. Here you have the times where you need to start with each of the blocks, and you can look at your agenda in a very small way, and you can resize your window to be like this. So either you have Miro or Google Sheets or whatever else you need during the meeting, then you can open it here, and you can have this side dashboard here to always be in sync with your dashboard. And you can always, and you can also mark things done here, so you know where you are with the agenda. Let's unmark those. And finally, if you think this is good, then we have another thing that you can share. This is not a must-have, but you can share a different dashboard with the participants. We call it the participant dashboard. You get this link that you can share with the participants, and they see what is the goal of the session they are invited to, and then they can open a different dashboard. I will put it here for the time being, so you could see both dashboards, but during the session, you wouldn't need both of these open. You just use your facilitation dashboard, and participants see a much smaller view of it. So they know exactly what is the agenda, what will happen today. When you focus on some activity like this, then they see that right now we are working with this, and they can see what is the current task, what they need to do. And it is always in front of the screen, and they never forget what they need to do. And when things get done, you mark it done, and it gets marked done in their dashboard as well. So let's see, Todd is telling us the story here, 10 minutes. Let's put this done as well. Now you have an opportunity to start the timer from here as well, which is automatically the time that you planned in the planner. You load the timer, and it opens in every computer. It's a big timer, and you can start the timer. So now everybody, whether they are physically present and you're showing this participant dashboard on a big screen, or you are doing an online session and you're sharing it with all the participants and they are opening it on their own computers, everybody is seeing the same timer, and everybody knows how much time Todd has, and Todd knows how much time he has. So he will not steal time from Felicia. He will not steal time from your Q&A session, and everything just flows. And then you can also set some instructions for each task, which people also see on their screens. This you can do in the planner. And you can also set some instructions for yourself as well. And all this is basically flows, what it is today. Where we are moving with it, one of the main things that we are working with right now is to have like a video explanation for each of these methods that we have in the library. So basically, if you put let's brainstorm some solutions, and you add this brainstorm as a master template there, then you can have a video explain to people what they actually need to do. And it makes it much more efficient, and you don't have to learn all these methods yourself. You can just use it and let the facilitator on the screen explain to people what they need to do. And there are other things, but this is like the main thing that we need. People are asking us. So this is in short the demo. There are other things that you can do with it, but yeah, this is the software.
Awesome. So what you just saw is the live demo of Flows. And guys, you don't realize how much powerful this is. It basically puts everyone on your team on the same page. And that's why I want you now to give it a try. It's on a lifetime deal right now on pitchground.com/product/flows. You can check the comments right now. I posted the link in the comments, and I guarantee you can take these meetings by yourself and see the difference versus those non-productive meetings that you were doing before versus this productive meetings that you're going to do after you get flows. Have clarity with agenda that makes your meetings more productive, more engaging. And yes, Venkatesh understood it. That's why he says exactly.
There's
Venkatesh, we have posted the link for the product. You can check it out. And
one more
guys, if
thing
you
that
have
I would
any,
like to add.
yeah, I made
If I may, that in this deal right now, we have with this price, you get actually account for 2 facilitators. And what I didn't demo is that you can actually work planning the session together, like in Google Docs, for example. When you are changing something, the other facilitator sees it as well. So when you have a co-facilitator or somebody who orders the meeting or session from you, then you can work on it together.
awesome.
Yes.
And we've also been working on a surprise for you all. That is, we saw your comments on our post. So we are planning to make some changes to the deal, and we won't announce it just yet. You'll find the changes and you'll find the updated things on, on the group. We'll share it in an update. That's going to make the deal even more sweeter for you guys. Guarantee that. And if you have any questions, you can leave us in the comment section down below. And Venkatesh, for sure, yes, virtual meetings are, as Vaiko said, uh, people are into different things altogether. People might be browsing GIFs. We never know how virtual meetings happen. But with flows, this actually brings all people on the same page so that people don't occupy each other's timing and respect each other's timing. So we hope you get the point. For those who are watching this webinar right now, it's reinventing your meetings, whether it's online, offline, etc. We can do this with flows. So I guess that's it for this webinar. And for those who have joined in, thank you so much for tuning in to this webinar. And the replay, as I said, would be available on Facebook, but won't be available on YouTube. For YouTube, you need to interact with that post, and we're gonna give you that link specially. So thank you so much for this webinar, and thank you so much, Vaiko, for this, amazing value bombs that you have dropped in this webinar.
Thank you. Thank you for joining, everybody.